Hello and welcome to the trade setup. In this video we are looking at Tempus AI. This was a stock analysis request from one of the followers, and I wanted to let you know that anyone can make these requests and I'll most likely cover them, especially if there is an actionable trade setup to follow. And in the case of this chart, we unfortunately are dealing with an extremely horrible pattern. There is no 5-wave structure basically in any direction that could tell us with high probability right now that we should expect continuation in one way or the other. Sure, in this area we may have had an initial 5-wave move to the upside, but we had our 3-wave correction and then our additional 5-wave move to the upside, and we don't necessarily expect continuation within this area, as we have failed to hold here an internal area of support that would allow a more direct push in a potential double 1-2-1-2 setup or something similar within this area. And even though it may be still technically possible to find a 1-2 setup in this area, it's not a high probability interpretation because, once again, we don't necessarily consider that this area of support has held, since we did break here below the 78.6% retracement only briefly, momentarily, but this structure doesn't seem to be complete and I would expect further continuation to the downside. Now, with that said, before we get into the smaller time frame details, I do want to mention the larger time frame. And here we had, since the previous video actually, this idea of two scenarios. So either in white we have a larger initial 1-2 setup, or in yellow we have an even larger wave 1 and then a correction in a wave 2. And then to the upside we would expect to form within these scenarios a larger wave 3, whether it started here in an ABC or it starts here in an ABC. We are expecting still a similar pattern, but in the end we don't have a reliable structure to track this actual interpretation. In the smaller time frame we only have a 3-wave move to the upside, and it might have only been a larger WXY pattern, which could be complete and could lead us to new all-time lows with the same probabilities we actually have on pushing higher, which actually tells us that we should probably stay away from this chart at least until we get a more reliable structure, because we don't really have an edge within these areas. Sure, we may be looking here for an internal AB area of support, and we may be looking within the wave B for some type of correction that could give us a decently accurate idea within a smaller time frame when we should expect completion. But again, from a larger time frame perspective, which is the most important, this is not a reliable trade setup, because I could allow a full count already and I could allow extensions into new all-time lows even. Now, with this said, both interpretations remain valid. I could even come up with other scenarios that could work out. As I was mentioning, even the bearish scenario actually exists. But what I want to focus on is here this internal potential large ABC structure, because once again, I don't really believe that we should expect this double 1-2-1-2 setup to actually hold, and that we should be prepared for a larger correction within this wave B, and where we still expect further extensions internally. Now, again, I want to explain what the idea of this double 1-2-1-2 setup would have been, and it would have actually been part probably of something, or part of either the white interpretation in a 1-2 setup and then a third wave, or probably even better, a larger ABC movement that would have played out within this area, at which point we would have had a complete structure to the upside. Now, those are all educational details, but in the end, what we should focus on, and what we will actually focus on in this video, is this correction, is this movement that we could form within an ABC structure, for which we have the area of support at the levels between the $69.6 all the way down to the $45.5 level. Even in the previous video, I did provide you this idea of a larger ABC structure to be formed, and we even had the idea of a larger 1-2-1-2 setup, only that we didn't have this structure complete just yet. And by the way, I may actually even consider that the wave A has actually topped here. I'm not necessarily too inclined one way or the other. If we do that, I may need to adjust the area of support ever so slightly, but it would be like less than $1 difference here at the 78.6% retracement. And if you really want, you can allow a slightly deeper retracement before you consider invalidation. But for me, yeah, honestly, if we break here in a sustained manner the 78.6% retracement, I would not be looking for the wave C to the upside still to come. Now, with that said, so far we have gotten into the area of support, and we have some additional structural support along the way, especially here at the 61.8% retracement. We have these lows that have formed a more significant bottom before extending higher, and these can allow us to actually find support and a reversal once again. Now, within this wave B to the downside, what I am focusing on is probably this idea of a larger ABC movement to develop internally, where yeah, I don't necessarily consider this to be an initial 5-wave move to the downside that could technically work out, but it's not necessarily a high probability scenario for me. So I'm focusing specifically here on this wave C. Now, I do want to caution you, if you are intending to use this for a potential entry, that this could actually morph into a larger wave 3 to the downside that could very easily even break below the 78.6% retracement. But if you really are interested, I am mostly eyeing here the level at the 61.8% retracement, the $54.3 level, as we also have structural support in this area, and even if it doesn't manage to form a significant bottom within this wave B, it can actually provide a decent reversal relief rally to the upside. Yeah, even if it's not the wave C, at least a relief rally could be seen within this area with a higher degree of likelihood. Now, internally within this wave C, I am at the moment focusing probably on the idea of an impulse to be forming, where I would ideally consider this to be a wave 1 done, a wave 2 up complete, and then a third wave that would be unfolding right now. And within this wave 3, I wouldn't necessarily expect too much further continuation, as I would consider that we would be in the later stages, yeah, probably in an internal wave 5 within this area. And what I would be focusing on is, yeah, probably here on an even smaller time frame, to start seeing some additional divergences, probably an initial internal larger correction, and then another 50 to the downside to complete a more significant bottom within this wave 3, and then not too large of a correction within the wave 4, and a fifth wave is still preferred. So on this chart, we are actually expecting further continuation lower, although I do want to mention it is possible to be tracking this structure to the downside as a diagonal pattern in of itself, and then this could turn into a larger ABC movement, where yeah, the wave C could actually see even further extensions. Now, this kind of depends on the internals of this movement to the downside and on the actual proportion of it, because yeah, if it is a fifth wave, I wouldn't necessarily expect to form too much of a significant correction further from now on. Now, if we want to consider that the third wave has bottomed and we want to see if we can actually hold the resist, or we can be held by the resistance levels for a wave 4 correction, we would be watching here the levels between the $63 all the way up to the $68 level at this 50% retracement, where a break above that level would be a signal to us that yeah, this movement to the downside may have found an early bottom, and we may be looking for a different type of correction. Yeah, possibly a 5-wave move to the downside, possibly a WXY pattern, in which case we may consider the B wave complete and we can start looking for the initial 5-wave move to the upside, which can prove interesting if it actually manages to appear. Yeah, unless we actually get here an initial 5-wave move to the upside, I would not be looking for a position on this chart. I would need confirmation when the broader structure is so bad. Yeah, just distrustful, nothing to really consider for, at least not for high stake anything basically. And then we can actually even have a look internally within this wave 5 of the wave 3, but within such a time frame, I don't believe we should be looking too much into it. I would probably assume that we have something like a 1, 2, and then a third wave that honestly may still be ongoing, and then we would still see a fourth and a fifth, and we may get into the last level, or not the last level, but the 61.8% retracement within this third wave alone. Yeah, I don't necessarily expect this structure to be complete or to find the bottom too soon, but we may find it earlier than we expect, because I could also count it as a diagonal structure, in which case, yeah, we'd probably have the 1, 2, 3 complete, and we would need here a fourth and a fifth to complete this larger wave 3. This could also work out, but an impulse is still possible within this area, And in such a case, we actually can see continued extensions lower into the $54 level, yeah, around that area probably, like the 16.8% retracement, where we actually have structural support as well. And then we may still find a wave 4 correction and a fifth wave to take us even lower, where we may find a more significant bottom. But for now, yeah, we still need to be patient. We need to not be too focused on the internal structure and on the small time frame counts. And for now, these are the levels. This is the trade setup. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, don't forget to subscribe and let me know what else you want me to cover, and I'll do my best to do that in the days and weeks ahead. And until then, I hope you have a nice day, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye.